me make sure that it's all working on Facebook.
Oh, do you want me to do that?
I've already got it up, so it's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
Yes, okay, we're up. We're here. Okay, very exciting, very exciting. Sorry, I'm just getting back to my okay, here we go. So, all right, welcome everybody to another episode of She's of Love. We're very, very, very excited to have Jenna on once again. Our last episode with you was just magnificent. Is the only word that I can use to describe it. Today we have a very exciting topic, one that I think is quite different from anything we've really done before, and that's about bringing the psyche and the soma together. Now I've heard of the psyche, but
Mhm.
I've actually never heard of the soma before. So I think I'll just hand the microphone right over to you, Jenna, and let you introduce today's topic.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Um, oh gosh, such a deep, complex topic to unpack. But what I'm actually currently building right now is something called shadow codes. And what shadow codes represents is your psyche and your soma, so your actual body and your energetic body. So I'm actually building out a system where someone is able to come in and either get tested through one of the shadow code practitioners or through the testing on the website, which actually unlocks their cognitive makeup, their energetic makeup, and their somatic physical makeup. And the reason why I have been so driven to create this is because my life as someone who has always felt very deep and very intense, I've had such a drive to know me, to know who I am through not just my body and my energetics, but also my mind. And I've really felt, and this is a broad comment to make, but I've always felt through a lot of the systems out there, such as human design and other similar systems, that it's either mind or body, or they tend to lean into more than one and the other. And I'm a really big believer that if we're going to talk about individuation, if we're going to talk about coming together and bringing the feminine and the masculine together, then that is what we need to do. And that we actually need to bring the psyche and the soma and the physical energetic body together and actually learn how to sync them and use them instead of pushing one away, because what you feel in your mind is going to be expressed and held in the body, and what you express and hold in the body is going to come up into the mind. Like, they're one and the same. And I feel, for me, shadow codes or unlocking your shadow codes is almost like me giving the world an opening into who I am and how I did my healing. Because a lot of my healing was through getting to know myself. Like, that was a really big thing for me, like truly sitting in the tension and the confrontation of my shadow and of my mind and my body, and actually sitting in that tension and holding that and really getting to know who the fuck I am. And the purpose of unlocking your shadow code is actually to help you to descend into yourself, into your shadows, and having the true understanding of how your mind and body actually works and why you experienced life differently to your siblings, why things have affected you the way they have, not just from your body, but from your mind. It's actually going to really help you go deep, deep, deep. I call it moving through the shadow door. So facing the ego with your shadow code and being able to say to your ego, you can come with me, and taking the ego by the hand and walking through that shadow door and almost not being able to deny parts of yourself, because you've seen it, you've witnessed it, you've experienced it. Unlocking your shadow code won't feel foreign to you. You won't look at it and think, that doesn't feel like me. It's going to be very confronting because there's an undeniable feeling that, wow, like, ugh, that is me. So that is what I mean by bringing the psyche and the soma together. I think it's very important, and I feel there's a big gap there for the deeper healing. Yeah.
Wow. I really resonate with what you're talking about, how the mind and the body are direct representatives and mirrors to one another.
Mm.
I mean, if you look at the world, and I'm reading a book at the moment, and the amount of times that it's like spitting all these statistics of areas where like for example Japan, where they're working insane amounts of hours every week, and the
Mm.
stress of it. People are getting really sick, and it's actually, there's like a term in Japanese that they use. I forgot what the term is, but like, because they're just burning themselves out. So many people are literally just getting sick and getting heart attacks, and passing away because of overworking themselves. And it's like literally a term that they use in Japan, in considering like these deaths in relation to how hard they're pushing their bodies and stuff. And the way
Mm.
that sickness manifests in our bodies is always a direct link to something that started in our brains, in a sense. And
Mm.
yeah, we all live like in our small little perceptions of our mind, and most of the time it's just made up, and it just like manifests in these weird ways in our bodies if we don't deal with it. So I really
Mm.
resonate with what you're saying, and I fully agree with you.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, I think for me, it's been also about just like everyone sitting in sort of like one side more than the other and missing out on so much of their own self, missing out on who they are. We're such, in this era of such reaching for things externally, where it's all within mind and body. And I really, I want to really go deep on this. Really, I call it the healing of the opposites, right? So, like with your shadow code, you have 4 channels, and then you have 4 shadow channels, and the 4 shadow channels actually mirror your top 4 channels. And so it's all about mirroring and healing the opposite of you and going into that and being able to really witness yourself on such a deep, intimate level, um, and learning about how this affects your body and what organs are actually coming into play and being repressed, and the organs that you may utilize the most. And if we want to go deeper than that, there's actually like ancestral links and deeper reservoirs within your code that actually unlock ancestral power. And it's not, there's a lot of philosophy here, but there's a lot of like logic behind it as well, like understanding that when you're born, the best way I can sort of describe it is you're born with a little capsule of energy that comes with you from your parents. And inside of that energy, it has like certain contracts and like trauma that you have to heal. And my knowing is that you were born with a certain shadow code in order to actually deal with that, to heal what you need to heal, to complete the contracts that you need to complete, because every shadow code, they all have the 8 channels inside, but they're all varied. They're all very different. And it actually completely changes the way someone will actually turn up in their life and the way they perceive things. And that particular shadow code will be made to deal with that little energy of that capsule of energy that they bring in. And that's how we break cycles. And the more that you align and descend into your channels, you actually come fully into yourself. And that really is all that is needed to break those cycles. You don't need to prove or do anything externally. It's truly just individuation. It's wholeness of self. Mm.
So Jenna, I'm interested to know, because a lot of precursor to this type of work is dealing with the overlay of shame. We feel like when we don't fit into a place, or if we're not fitting into our families. I know for me, when I was growing up, I didn't quite fit into my family system. And so my mother used to call me the black sheep. And with that came a lot of shame. And so for me, I had to wade through that pool of shame before I could do really any, because if you're carrying that shame, you're dealing with so much of that before you can even look at, oh, I'm worthy enough to do this type of work. I'm worthy enough to want to heal myself. What sort of advice do you have for people who are feeling that kind of shame in their life?
Well, it's very interesting you bring this up, because I actually just went through a massive healing with my mum using shadow codes. A lot of shame there, a lot of anger, and it was being expressed in my body through a lot of shadow within me. My mother was very she would disassociate a lot. That's how she dealt with her life, and I grew up believing that I wasn't very maternal. And there's a lot of stuff there, but I'll keep it to what we're talking about. But I, for a long time, and with all the healing work that I had done, I held that anger there, because I did not understand why. Why couldn't you love me? Why couldn't you show me love? And I carried so much shame that I had grown up being masculine. That's what we would call it, right? We go around saying women that are hard are masculine, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Now, there's obviously so many things along your journey of dealing with shame, because shame is such a beautiful emotion, because it brings up so much for you. It's very confronting. But when I started working on shadow codes, I unlocked my mother's shadow code, and I cried. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I was like, I finally understand you. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. And it dropped me into some really deep healing around my mother and the way that I was turning up for my own soul sisters and our relationship, and how, I was able to see now, like, so clearly, that my mother with her shadow code, she was just not made to express the way I express emotions and what she prioritized in her energetic and cognitive makeup. And I thought, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how hard that would have been for you. And I'm like, love me, just love me. And she's like, I'm loving you. And I'm like, and I actually ended up dropping really deep into some mother wound healing. And since then, I've actually been on a really big journey of completely healing my emotional eating. I've actually lost around 7 kgs since then, and I've lost the yearning to eat emotionally. I've stabilized my own emotional well-being, and I'm actually able to see myself even clearer. And that type of work, obviously, I've been healing for a bit longer, so I can facilitate that within me, and I have friends who can hold that space. But how shadow codes would help someone is walk them through that through a shadow code session, booking and healing through going through the descent and helping someone unpack that and helping them move through that. But I've held a lot of shame for both my mother and my father. Um, and if we move shadow codes to the side completely, the biggest thing that I truly believe is that before you can work on yourself, you actually have to forgive your parents. Because if you don't forgive your parents, you're always going to see them in the mirror and not yourself.
Yeah, right. I resonate with that because I had a similar story with my mum where I couldn't understand why I never felt
Mm,
loved by her.
mm,
And my parents used to say, like, my dad and I would talk and he'd be like, your mum loves you very much. And my mum would, I mean, she could never say that, I love you very much, but she would say it in other ways. But I struggled really to feel it from her. And I
mm,
realized that over the years as a child growing up, I was blaming myself. I was thinking that I was unlovable. And what I realize now after many, many years, and my mum's gone now, she passed away in 2016, I think it was. Um, what I've realized is there was things about her in her life, the way that she grew up and the way she was in herself, was that her way of showing me love wasn't my way of receiving it.
yeah.
So, and there were reasons for that. And I
Mm-hmm,
could never see those reasons until I started to work on myself.
mm-hmm,
And when I did that work on myself and I kept digging and kept digging and kept digging, it's funny because once those scales have been ripped off your eyes and you can see it for what it is, that's the trick,
mm,
is being able to see something for what it is, not through the lens of
mm.
oh, I mustn't be lovable, it's my fault, there's something wrong with me. So it's like all that shame. When you can dig through all that and get to the root of it, that's when you kind of go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, now I really understand that she had stuff going on and she couldn't love me the way I
Yeah,
needed her to.
yeah.
And that's why I asked you about shame, because that's such a huge, it's like an archaeological dig through that,
Oh, just
you
in
know?
itself. Mm.
Yeah.
The other thing I found as well through the shame, once I was able to truly see my mum and hold that compassion for her, because I'm someone that uses a lot of my imagination and then my feelings. That's like sort of the way that I process the world, where my mother's shadow code actually used a lot of external, logical sort of energy, which meant that a lot of people that hold my mother's shadow code, they show their children love through teaching them how to survive, because they have
Right.
more of a logical understanding of the world, and that's the way it is. They want to set you up to survive. And
Mm.
I, for such a long time, have labeled myself as hard because I was wearing my mother's shadow. I was wearing
Mm.
her shadow, and I had completely repressed who I am. And I went around just believing I'm just more of a masculine woman. My mum was more of a masculine woman. So that is just, I can't, I couldn't not identify with that. But when I got to learn who she was through shadow codes and then myself, it's like I could finally, with even with all the work that I had been doing, I could finally see me. And I was like, I'm allowed to be soft.
Yeah.
And that is inherently who I am. and that I have a big heart, and I may be still learning how to use it without the layering of my parents on there, and that's okay. But it was such massive permission slip to just be myself, and it's actually just made me more passionate about what I'm doing right now, because I'm like, if I could just give this to other women and show to them, you know, you're not your mum. And they're like, we know
Yeah.
that. I'm like, no, look at this, like this. It's just so freeing, you know? So shame is big for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
So
oh, sorry,
essentially,
Mum.
give yourself permission to be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
all I wanted to
And
say, Juliet. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say how you know, I resonated with what you say with the survival, you're taught how to survive. Because so
mm,
often parents, our parents grew up in a very different world than we did, and life
mm-hmm,
was really hard for them.
mm-hmm,
And I think a lot of the time I see in the world, um, people trying to raise their kids um, in this like vibration and mindset that the world is hostile, that it is something to survive.
mm-hmm,
And in some aspects, that's true. Like it's kind of too woo woo to say, oh no, it's not. Like there are definitely aspects that we need those, survival, you know, and realistic expectations of the world. But especially with women and like
mm,
mothers to daughters or just parents to daughters, I see it so often where women are taught to belittle themselves or um,
mm,
cover up and not wear showy clothes, or the clothes, not even showy clothes, but just the clothes that they may feel called and most like resonant with, because the parents, it's not necessarily out of judgment, but it's just pure fear that the parents like don't want that their daughter going out into the world being themselves, because it's they're afraid that literally something's
mm,
going to happen to the daughter, and they grew up also in a much more hostile world. And I think that kind of domino effects. And if you're raising your kids to believe that they have to survive and that these are the ways that, life has to be, it's just like, when we believe something, that's what we create. And it just perpetually, keeps going.
Yeah.
Um, so I really see that. And I think the work that you're doing is like so vital to the world, especially in this time where things are getting fucking crazy. And we
mm,
need to let go of these generational traumas, because it's just transferring into other aspects. Like, we're getting further with obviously, I think the perspectives change with the survival things a little bit, but it's still so it's just transformed into other things. And my generation especially is so afraid. They don't like I know so many friends that don't think that they're going to live a full life because the world is going to end. And so they don't want to have kids, and they don't want to,
mm,
they've got this attitude of like, well, the world's going to end anyway, so may as well just do whatever I want. And I
Yeah.
feel like
mm,
it's not really what are we doing to the like what are we gonna, we're literally creating the end of the world by doing that. If we're not like creating anything for longevity, and we're not like living for the future and to create a better future, and we're just like, oh fuck it, the world's gonna end anyway, well then, so you've already given up.
yeah, yeah. I have this belief through shadow codes, excuse me, and this is sort of like going off the back of what you're saying right now, as we feel to be moving into more of this matriarchal era that we're clearly starting to move in, which is very scary because the world hasn't experienced feminine rage yet, you know, and that's
Yeah.
that is, yes, very, very scary. And a lot of what I create is always for women first. But I really believe that the healing of this world starts with women, and that, and this may trigger a few people, but it really does fucking start with us because we are the mothers of this world. We are, and yes, I know and I understand everything, but where does it stop? Because we're about to move into another era that is going to show us just the complete opposite. It's not going to bring balance. Balance is when we come together. That is when we're able to come together where, you know, it's not the patriarchal system or the matriarchal system, but it's a union. And that starts with us. We are Mother Earth. We are the mothers of this world. We are the ones birthing these boys, right? The healing must start with us, right? It has to start here within the womb space, within the body of the female, through the creative energy of what we are. And I know
Yeah.
that we have suffered so much. We have suffered so much. But in this day and age, we truly get a choice to rise up into our feminine, or really to descend into our feminine. And really, generational trauma is carried through the womb space.
Yeah.
And that is not blaming women, not at all. But I believe, just as I'm speaking this now, we went through what we went through because we're meant to be here right now, claiming sovereignty, claiming ourselves back, not in anger, but in within, right? Within ourselves, and saying, I want to do better for me and for the boys that I'm birthing and the young girls. And it starts there. And that's one of the big things that I actually really want to help or express, because it's a part of my journey. It's my, you know, everyone has their own beliefs, and that's where we get into like the feminine, masculine energy. And with shadow codes, as I move a little bit further along, a lot of it's going to be based on shadow work, the unconscious work, and moving into more of the bridging depth psychology, typology with the somatics and energy work. And I have been doing a lot of work for myself around integrating my masculine. And I have found that a lot of what we say masculine woman and calling women masculine is so belittling, and it literally takes away her right to claim to be feminine.
Yeah.
And when we, you know, we've got the sort of the polar opposites, the women who portray very what we deem as masculine qualities, and then women, if we look on the polar opposite of the shadow side, women who have very unled energy. But what I have found inside the system currently is that the shadow of the unled woman is deemed as feminine, and the woman that is too in command of herself is masculine. But
Yes.
the reality is they both have an unintegrated masculine inside of them. Because if you have extremely unled energy and you're whoopsie doopsie everywhere in your life, you're living in chaos, you have a passive man living inside of you, and he's
That's
not leading
right.
you. And you probably are calling in his opposite, which is a very dominant and tyrant man. And,
High
you know,
five.
instead of trying to be, you know, more feminine, because you already are feminine, you actually have to drop down into your own masculine and say, I need you to step the fuck up. I need
Yeah.
you to hold me. I need you to lead me. And then the other side, which is the side where we seem to say, oh, she's very masculine. She is the woman that commands, she's assertive, she has authority, and God, I resonate with this woman. But she needs to control everything. She has a tyrant. Her inner masculine is a tyrant, and she needs to drop in and say to him, I need you to hold space for my emotions. I need you to hold me. I need you to let me be vulnerable. And because this is why this woman that has a tyrant in her, she attracts the passive man. And so when when we talk about deep individuation, and this is deeper shadow work stuff, instead of looking outside of yourself for a man to make you feel feminine, for a man to pay your bills, for a man to bring you stability, it's all within self. That twin flame union that everyone is looking for, it's within your own masculine within you. And when you can bring that into and really integrate him, that if you're called for that in life and it's what you want, is when you're actually going to bring in his mirror. That is when he finally reflects outside of you and you call in, because you become that anchor for yourself. And it doesn't make you masculine. It actually makes you extremely feminine in your femininity. So
Yeah.
that's something I've been traveling through with shadow codes, and I really want to incorporate that as well into some of the teachings that I speak on.
I also felt called to say something on that, and how you were talking about how it's degrading to, put this masculine identity on women. And I see it so often when this like masculine label is put on women when they place boundaries and when they are strong, when they lead. And
Manipulative technique, Juliet.
it's manipulative. And also, why are those things masculine? Isn't that just a human thing? Isn't placing boundaries human? Isn't being a
Mm-hmm.
leader being human? Like it's there are, of course, there are things that energies that are masculine, and there's energies that are feminine, and behaviors that fall into those categories, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But why are these inherently, like, literally just being a human being masculine? We all need boundaries, no matter what sex you are. Like, no
Yeah.
matter what. Like, that's not a masculine thing to me. And this like judgment of like, oh, she's a boss, like a girl boss, or she's it's like, no, she's just in a leader position, which has nothing to do with masculine energy necessarily. So, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's like the
I
more
just
you
don't.
heal yourself, the more you get to know yourself,
Mm,
the more you understand where your boundaries are, and so that you
Yeah.
can then work through walk through your life being yourself, because
yeah,
you've got your boundaries in place. And
yeah,
then you have to contend with people saying, oh, look at her, she's a boss babe, or she's a,
yeah.
you know, as if that's a derogatory term. No, she just knows herself. She knows her limitations. She knows where people are allowed to come and people are not allowed to come. And that, to
And
me, high five, sister. High
and
five to
boundaries,
Mm.
you.
and like strong boundary setting is like nurturing to oneself.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
Yep.
a kindness. It
that's
is
right.
there is softness in that, which I think goes in exactly what you're saying, Jenna. Like, there are, both sides come together and balance
Yeah,
equally. And it's
yeah, that's
in
right.
everything, there is that balance. It is not one thing or another. It has inherently equal parts to one another. And I think that's what makes us human beings.
Yeah,
That's right.
I had this saying where it's because I believe in, I really love like philosophical symbology. Like I love seeing just like the meanings of things everywhere. And I love the Hindu culture, how they have infinite amount of goddesses, which actually equates to one goddess, right? There's only one goddess in the Hindu culture, but she's so many at the same time. And I started studying them. I've been to India before, and I just have this deep fascination of anything that's quite symbolic. I find it quite fascinating. And I feel for women, you know, if you are the fucking storm, be the fucking storm.
Yeah.
And then only until you can own that you are the storm, then can you start integrating the energy of the river and the blade of grass and the flowers and the sky. But if you are trying to push away that you are a storm because it seems that everyone likes the river or the blade of grass, you are constantly going to be fighting with yourself. And it's the same for the woman that feels like she's just a blade of grass and she wants to be the storm. Baby, you got to see that you are such a beautiful, delicate river, grass, petal, tree, whatever you resonate with. And once you can own that, then can you expand into the other areas. But I feel as women, because we're so infinite, we're so, there's no ending to the, the archetypes of the feminine. It's just some of us have inherently stronger qualities of certain archetypes. Like I really resonate with Kali and Durga and Sekhmet and but they are also feminine and they are soft. And I still love to sit and work with like Lakshmi and the other goddesses too, because that is who I am and I have the right to work with that. But I think where there's so much separation, like I am this and that is what I am. No, baby, you can be anything and everything. You're all of it. And so if you are the storm, be the fucking storm. If you are a
Yeah.
flower, be a fucking flower and own that shit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Jenna, I think
Wow.
this is a really beautiful place to end this conversation in saying that when we're born, we are overlaid with the expectations of the world and of the parents and of the place where we're born, right? So whatever country, whatever
Mhm.
suburb. But we don't have to adhere to those rules. If we choose, if we do not fit into that, the shape that we're being pushed into, like the square peg in the round hole, we
Mhm.
get to choose. We can say, hang on a minute, I'm going to honor myself and I'm going to be who I see myself to be. And it takes
Mhm.
courage to do that. And, sometimes we need help, like we might need to go, you know, to find something like shadow codes or whatever it is that they need help with. But we have the right to do that. Man
Mhm.
or woman, it doesn't matter who. I resonate with the feminine because I've had the female journey in my life, being born as a feminine entity. But it's men too. They can, if they're being told that they have to be a certain way and they don't want to be that way, they have the right to go and figure that out for themselves and be whoever they want to be too. So I think that's a beautiful point to to end this conversation, because we want to have you back, Jenna, to talk about feminine rage. That
Oh, I
I
love
want to
Yes.
that.
talk. Yeah, I want to talk about that next time, if you're
Yeah.
okay with
That
that.
sounds awesome. Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because I think that there is a huge part of the feminine in that rage, feeling that rage at the moment
Mm.
that's coming up, and we need to discuss that, I think.
Mm.
Mm. I call it the fuck you era of the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think it
She's
needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, it needs to. Where she's got middle fingers in the air, tongue out like Carly, like, just, and it
Yeah.
has to come out. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Great.
Wow.
Okay, everyone. Are you good,
All right.
Juliet?
Yes, I feel complete. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you so much, Jenna. I mean, it's
Thank you
just
for having
been,
me.
our pleasure. Yeah. I'm really grateful that we get to send off these talks into the world and heal
Mm.
together. And yeah, it's just such an amazing thing to discuss. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Right. Bye.